Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we've been following today. U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran's latest offer to end the war is, quote, a piece of garbage, adding the Middle East ceasefire is on life support. Plus, folks who visited the Claresholm Hospital emergency department last Friday now being warned of a measles outbreak. And a local athlete who became a Stanley Cup champion joins the Lethbridge Sports Hall of Fame's class of 2026.
Your nation. Your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks so much for joining us. There is very little positive news on the war in the Middle East. U.S. President Donald Trump says he has rejected Tehran's latest offer to end the war. Trump called the Iranian response a, quote, piece of garbage.
Unbelievably weak. I would say, I would call it the weakest right now. After reading that piece of garbage they sent us, I didn't even finish reading it. They said, I'm not going to waste my time reading it. I would say it's one of the weakest right now. It's on life support. They understand these are all medical people. And Dr. Oz, life support is not a good thing. Do you agree?
Bad prognostic.
I would say the ceasefire is on massive life support.
This impasse comes as Trump prepares to head to China this week. Trump is expected to urge Chinese President Xi Jinping to pressure Iran into making concessions and end the limbo. Beijing is the biggest purchaser of the Islamic Republic's sanctioned crude oil, giving it leverage. But getting to any deal remains tough work. We get more on that from John Gambrell with the Associated Press.
The Iranians are insisting that they want to see sanctions relief as well as a blockade by the Americans targeting their ships lifted. Now, from the American side, they say they want to see Iran lift its chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz, that narrow mouth of the Persian Gulf, through which about 20% of all crude oil and natural gas passes. They also want to see Iran give up its nuclear program. That includes the highly enriched uranium that's believed to be buried in the country after earlier American strikes on atomic facilities there. Now, this is coming at an impasse where we are seeing continued efforts by mediators in Egypt, Turkey, and Pakistan trying to get the two sides together, but these difficulties and these challenges seem insurmountable at the moment, and we are seeing an uptick in attacks both in the Persian Gulf, targeting Gulf Arab countries, as well as ships in the region, as well as increased fire between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, which Iran backs. All these things together could be enough to tip this region back into open war.
The captain of the cruise ship at the center of the hantavirus outbreak in the South Atlantic Ocean last week is thanking his crew and passengers. The World Health Organization says 3 people have died since the outbreak began, with a total of 7 cases confirmed.
The past few weeks have been extremely challenging to us all, as I'm sure you know. What touched me the most, what moved me the most, was your patience, your discipline, and also kindness that you show to each other throughout. At sea, people depend on each other. There is no readily available rescue services standing by to come to your help in emergency. So perseverance is sort of an expected quality, perhaps, but I've witnessed way more this time around. I've witnessed your caring, your unity, and quiet strength amongst everybody on board, guests and crew alike. And I must commend my crew for their courage and the selfless resolve that they showed time and again in the most difficult moments. Most importantly, our thoughts are with the ones that are no longer with us, and whatever I say will not ease this loss, but I'd like you to know they are with us every day in our hearts and our thoughts.
Passengers from the ship have begun flying home after the vessel anchored in Spain's Canary Islands. That includes 4 Canadians who are now quarantining and being monitored in British Columbia. 3 other people in Ontario with connections to the deadly outbreak remain without symptoms. The World Cup is just around the corner with games scheduled in Toronto and Vancouver. And despite the rich and famous preaching about climate change, they do love their private jets. Vancouver International Airport is preparing for the arrival of wealthy soccer fans to watch the 7 FIFA World Cup games in the city in June and July.
On average, we have somewhere between 15 and 25 aircraft in this category that come in on a daily basis. I'll give you some stats from Taylor Swift. Was 181, was our highest day during the Taylor Swift weekend. So a considerable increase, and we managed that fine. And the reason that we managed that fine is because we scheduled it. So we had that reservation office, which makes it easy to manage. For context, the Toronto World Series, the highest movements they had in this sector for general aviation, business aviation, was 131 on a day. So Taylor Swift really was that sort of really busiest environment for this type of movements. And all of those things were condensed periods of time. So this is over a number of weeks periods. So I'm not anticipating the numbers on the days either side of the games here to get anywhere near Taylor Swift.
The Boundary Bay Airport in Delta, BC accepts landings on a first-come, first-served basis rather than having to book a specific landing time. It's also preparing for an increase in private jets for the tournament. And while we're talking about air travel, Toronto's Pearson Airport is launching a multi-billion-dollar upgrade that aims to boost its passenger numbers by more than a third. The revitalization plan looks to ramp up traffic and tighten on-time performance. Improvements range from repaved runways to what it calls modernized retail, as well as possible terminal expansions. The federal government is considering privatizing Canada's federally owned airports, partly because of the massive costs of maintaining them. Health officials have issued a warning about potential measles exposure in southern Alberta. Alberta Health Services says anyone who was at the Claresholm General Hospital Emergency Department on Wednesday, May the 6th, between 1:30 p.m. and 8:15 p.m. may have been exposed. AHS says anyone who attended this location during these times, who was born in or after 1970 and has fewer than 2 documented doses of measles containing vaccine, or has never had the measles disease, may be at risk for developing measles. Symptoms include fever of 38.3 degrees Celsius or higher, a cough, runny nose and or red eyes, and a rash that appears 3 to 7 days after the fever starts, usually beginning behind the ears and on the face and spreading down to the body and then to the arms and legs. The rash appears red and blotchy on lighter skin colors. On darker skin colors, it can appear purple or darker than the skin around it, or it might be hard to see. If measles symptoms do develop, individuals are advised to stay home and call the measles hotline at 1-844-944-3434 before visiting any healthcare facility or provider, including a family physician clinic or pharmacy. A 29-year-old man is facing charges in connection with 3 separate assaults last Friday night. Police responded to a call of a woman being assaulted by an unknown man at a residence along the 1200 block of 8th Avenue North. Before police arrived, the suspect took off but was located by the K-9 team shortly after and was arrested. Police allege he had entered the backyard, was confronted by the occupant and told to leave, but police say he became aggressive, striking a 16-year-old boy and 38-year-old woman. Authorities discovered a 3rd victim who had been parked in the area and was approached aggressively by the suspect. Fearing he was going to be punched through the open vehicle window, he closed it and drove off. Police say 29-year-old Lucas Allen Stadnick charged with 3 counts of assault. He is in custody and was scheduled to appear in court today. Some recognizable athletes are this year's inductees to the Lethbridge Sports Hall of Fame. The class of 2026 includes 7 members who have been either retired from their sport or for at least 5 years, plus 2 Kinsman Sports Persons of the Year. The list includes Ross Beckering, a 5-year member of the University of Calgary Dinos, and a staple with the Dutch Basketball League, also representing the Netherlands in 3-on-3 basketball. The most recognizable name, however, may be Kris Versteeg, who in his 11th season playing career in the NHL won 2 Stanley Cups with the Chicago Blackhawks before retiring in 2020. He says the people surrounding him during his time in minor and junior hockey in the city made him proud to represent Lethbridge.
My brother informed me that there might be some news, and then Toby Belay obviously called. I've known Toby for quite a while. He was a teacher at my school at Winston Churchill, and I know him, so he obviously delivered the news. And, you know, it's really exciting. You put a lot into it as an athlete, and to hear about that is pretty special. I'm proud to be from Lethbridge. I think I've always said that everywhere I've gone, but, you know, going through the minor hockey system when I was young, you know, my dad always bringing me to early morning skates, or my mom, and then, you know, going through all those trials and tribulations growing up really did prepare me for the, you know, the hockey's biggest stage multiple times.
Toby had called me. I had missed his call. He said, I have some big news for you, and I wasn't really expecting this. And yeah, to get the news, especially on a tough week, it was just something that made me smile, and definitely something that I was very excited to hear. I think there's just like a strong sports culture here, and specifically with basketball, I always felt connected to something unique in Canada. So just the support that you see, just the passion you see from the fans, it was a really cool thing, especially as a youngster, to grow up, to develop, to learn the game, and again, just to be connected to an awesome community.
They're great athletes, great builders, but they're good people to begin with. If they're not a good person, no one's going to follow you. To me, that's the number one thing. And also the athletes, they have something that most people, the vast majority of people don't have. They have that extra bit of edge to say, I'm going to train when I'm tired. I'm going to go get that puck. Just watch that Stanley Cup game right now, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing that, but they do that. And Versteeg has 2 Stanley Cups.
And congratulations to this year's inductees. So great. The Lethbridge Soup Kitchen is urging the community to give generously after an expected sizable donation did not come in on time. There's always a decrease in donations in the spring and summer months. Since the Soup Kitchen chooses to not receive government funding, any pauses in donations can add up quickly. Bill Ginther, Executive Director with Lethbridge Soup Kitchen, says while they have enough volunteers, what they really need is funds. But he understands this can be a challenge when everyone is feeling the financial pinch.
The bigger issue is simply donations, and that can be affected by gas prices, because if I'm paying more out of pocket for my day-to-day expenses, which is food, which is affected by gas prices, etc., transportation costs, people have less disposable income to give. Expenses never stop. Expenses always go up. If income goes down, then you have that disparity. So that was the reason for my post on Facebook saying that we need a bit of help. Would people step up and help us, given the fact that we do 155,000 plus meals did last year for homeless folks, and so it's something we simply are not able to do on our own. So with help from the community is what we've always depended on. I'm always hesitant to put the word out there because it sounds like we're begging, but people always tell me, you have to tell us what you need, and so that's what I've done.
Donations to the Lethbridge Soup Kitchen can be sent to lethbridgesoupkitchen.ca. From trying alcohol for the first time at the age of 10 to losing her children because of her addictions, Robin Fox's story is one of hardship and resilience. Our Heidi Echeverria brings us Robin's story of leaving her life on the streets to come full circle, now helping those who are where she once was.
Started my first drink when I was 10 years old.
Robin Fox can relate to people who are hurting. Today, as a client support with Streets Alive mission, she helps people experiencing homelessness, helps them connect to resources, and is simply someone they can talk to. She has lived what they are living.
I started hanging around with a lot of my older cousins that were also starting to drink. When I was around 13, 14, things got a lot worse. That's what I thought life was about, right? You know, meeting up with the wrong people, and I thought that was my identity. was to drink.
According to Robin, generational trauma is a key reason many Indigenous people struggle with addiction. In Canada, Indigenous people make up about 5% of the population, but represent more than 30% of those experiencing homelessness.
I was living with on my reserve in Siksika. My mom, she was in her addiction most of her life. And my father, he committed suicide. Me and my mom, we were always moving from place to place. I was never able to finish a whole school year because of us not being stable. I said, I'm not moving anymore. So I stayed with my grandpa and some aunties that took care of me while my mom wasn't there. And so I stayed with them, and they also had addiction problems too, right?
Robin eventually ended up in Calgary, where crack and cocaine and a series of failed relationships left her in a bad place.
I thought being in a relationship and having children was going to take away that feeling I was having inside, right? That loneliness and all the things I didn't have. I love my babies, but it didn't actually take away that empty feeling in my heart that I was always searching for. Because I was so lonely and depressed.
After her children were taken from her, Robin moved to Brooks and ended up in a recovery center where she started to read the Bible. Eventually, she moved to Lethbridge.
I feel like the Holy Spirit was leading me here, hey? This is where you need to go. You need long-term treatment. There's no way that you're gonna get better in 3 months. So when I decided to come to Genesis, I feel this is what my purpose is, to help people, and because I understand where they're coming from, right? This gives me that chance to show them that it's possible. They can get sober. I really love Jesus, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have made it this far.
Robin has been sober for 2 years now. She has rebuilt trust in her children, discovered faith in God, and found dignity in her life again. Heidi Echavarria, Bridge City News.
We are hearing a lot lately about advancements in robotics, and they're looking and acting more and more like humans all the time, aren't they? Well, now there's a robot that's beating professionals at table tennis. Researchers with Sony AI in Japan and Switzerland say advances in artificial intelligence are making robots more agile.
We built ACE, which is the first autonomous robot that can challenge professional human athletes under competitive conditions in a physically interactive game, here table tennis. The robot uses a system of cameras to understand what's happening. It's then taking decision and is then moving the racket to hit the ball back or to serve under the official rules of table tennis. The robot can really do that by learning to play table tennis from scratch. So there is no way to program a robot by hand to play table tennis. You have to learn how to play from experience. Human-robot interaction is what makes this challenge difficult, right? And in many cases of human-robot interactions, you are dealing with a human that helps the robot or cooperates with a robot. In table tennis, we're actually facing an adversarial opponent that tries to make the task as difficult as possible for the robot, which is what makes this really interesting.
It gives me goosebumps. It's kind of spooky. And while we're talking about artificial intelligence, this is incredible. Archaeologists at the ancient Roman site of Pompeii have used AI to digitally reconstruct the face of a victim of the AD 79 eruption of Mount Vesuvius. The digital portrait represents a new way to understand one of history's most famous natural disasters.
Si tratta del rinvenimento di 2 uomini che cercavano di scappare dalla città sotto le l'eruzione del Vesuvio. Uno dei due cercava di coprirsi la testa con un mortaio, un vaso in terracotta, e abbiamo proposto per la prima volta in maniera scientifica, insieme all'Università di Padova, una ricostruzione utilizzando l'intelligenza artificiale, e credo che si tratti di uno strumento che in futuro sarà sempre più importante, non solo per affrontare la vastità dei dati che emerge a Pompei e in altri siti, per tutelare un patrimonio fragile e esteso come appunto la città di Pompei, ma anche per raccontare un patrimonio molto articolato, molto ricco, un pubblico sempre più diversificato.
Pompeii is one of the world's most significant archaeological sites and one of the most popular tourist sites in Italy, welcoming 4.3 million visitors in 2024. And I was one of them in 2022.
I'm Sean Haney with RealAgriculture.com. In the rural municipality of Rosser, there's a $100 million grain processing facility that sat idle for years, now is being converted into an AI data center. A province over in the arm of Sherwood, ground is broken on a $12 billion project. As applied economist Elizabeth Lika points out in a recent analysis for Cappy on RealAgriculture.com, these aren't isolated cases. They are the first visible landings of a massive capital wave. Now, is that good or is that bad? AI is digital, but its infrastructure is physical. A single major data center can draw as much electricity as a mid-sized city and occupy hundreds of acres for substations and transmission lines. The digital economy is now competing for the same acres as agriculture. With average farmland values rising over 9% in 2025 and 60% of operators over the age of 55, the pressure is mounting here. When a data center offer far exceeds what production can justify, the market calculus shifts for everyone. As Lika notes in her column, it's easy to say farmland should be protected, but it's a much harder question when the return for selling looks more certain than the return for producing. For Bridge City News, I'm Sean Haney with RealAgriculture.com.
Warehouse One Clothing Limited, which operates both Warehouse One and Bootlegger stores, have announced plans to liquidate all of its 128 retail stores across Canada, 3 of them being in Lethbridge. The company began insolvency proceedings under the company's Creditors Arrangement Act in Manitoba. Both brands were founded in Canada, Bootlegger in 1971 in Vancouver and Warehouse One in 1977 in Winnipeg. Gift cards, returns, and exchanges will be honored through till May 13th. Following court authorization, liquidation is expected to begin around May the 15th. With a month to go before the FIFA World Cup, renovations at Vancouver's BC Place Stadium are nearly complete. The stadium's new grass playing surface is being installed ahead of 7 tournament games in Vancouver starting June the 13th with Australia against Turkey. Other upgrades include new elevators, a scoreboard, and renovated locker rooms at the 55,000-seat venue. BMO Field, which will be called Toronto Stadium during the tournament, also recently showed off its World Cup upgrades of expanded seating sections to 44,000 fans during an MLS game between Inter Miami and Toronto FC. The World Cup opens June 11th in Mexico, with games also spread across Canada and the U.S. Team Canada plays its first game June 12th against Bosnia and Herzegovina in Toronto. And now here's a look at today's markets.
TSX was up 61 to 34,138. The Dow was up 95 to 49,704. The S&P 500 was up 13 to 7,412, and the Nasdaq was up 27 to 26,274. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up $2.92 to $98.34 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 17 cents to $2.93 US. Gold was up $19.80 to $47.3565 US an ounce, and silver was up $5.77 to $86.10 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.62 per bushel. Barley is at $7.01. Canola is at $16.90, and corn is at $7.85 per bushel. Live cattle June contract was up 50 cents to $249.40. Feeder cattle were up $102 to $368.40. Lean hogs are unchanged at $90.87, and that Canadian dollar was even over the past 24 hours and currently sits at 73.10 US.
Recapping one of today's top stories, U.S. President Donald Trump says the Iran ceasefire is on life support. Trump rejected Iran's latest proposal to end the war, calling it garbage. Officials said the proposal included some concessions on Iran's disputed nuclear program. Trump said Monday he'll suspend his country's federal gas tax to help address high fuel prices caused by the Iran war. With grocery prices continuing to skyrocket, NDP leader Avi Lewis is calling for government-run grocery stores. He says families could save up to 40%, but where is he getting these numbers when grocery store profit margins are at 5%? Gabriel Jaguar, senior policy analyst with the Montreal Economic Institute, will bring some clarity to the issue. That is coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our content, as well as our poll questions.